Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestling Guy Podcast. I'm here, David. I'm right here with my left-handed sidekick, Lefty. Come on, Lefty, say hi. Hey. Before we start the podcast, let me give a couple shout-outs. Let me give a shout-out here to Corona Photos, who is our official photographer for our autograph signings. Check them out, right here in the city of Huntington Park. Also, to remind everybody that this Saturday, we have Rosa Mendez, August 5th, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., so come on down for more information. Check out the WrestlingGuyStore.com. For those listening or watching right now on Facebook Live, make sure you check out WrestlingGuyPodcast.com in case we get cut off or you want to finish the podcast. Lefty, introduce our guest.
Today, we have one of the up-and-comers making a big impact on the scene.
He's kind of nervous, you can tell.
Just a little.
Little bit. Half of the EWF Tag Team Champions with the tie rep, and the EWF American Champion himself, the Real Super Beetle.
Real Super Beetle.
That's
my song.
Hey.
I thought you had it ready.
I don't want to get sued. Yeah, I thought about him. I don't want to take that chance.
You know what? So I wanted to ask you about that song because they had these girls that are right here that nobody can see, or because we're on
they're our camera ladies.
Our camera ladies played the song for me, and I knew it as soon as I heard it. How did you come up with that song? Were you a fan of the 90s music?
Let me just say, first of all, no one's going to sue you for playing Blue. Nobody knows who owns that song anymore. But yeah, it's just, I remember there's one time in my life that I can remember that song kind of just popping out. And it's right at the beginning of Iron Man 3. That song plays at the party scene. And that instantly, like, say what you want about the movie, that instantly, like, everyone had a good time right then and there. So we were up at the mountains, which is where I debuted on a show, and I had no idea what I wanted. I was like, what's wrestling? There's Linkin Park, there's Limp Bizkit, like, none of that stuff fit me. And so our booker said, you know what, I've got the song for you. Didn't know what it was. He's like, you'll figure it out on your entrance. And I came out, and I was like, all right, fine, like, it's gonna be this. And after, it just kind of fit, like, obviously now I can never change any color, but it just kind of fit. And so yeah, ever since that, I'm like, I can dance to this song. It gets people hyped. That little choo-choo-choo, that little laser at the beginning, like, I'm standing at the curtain and I hear that choo-choo-choo, and I was just like, all right, it's time to go, let's do this. So yeah, it just ended up fitting, and now I like kind of could not imagine me without it. Yeah. So the place I'm wrestling at this weekend asked me, like, oh, what's your theme music? And I was like, all right, here's my chance, because I can change it if I wanted to. I messed with something. Last weekend we were at DPW in El Centro, and I came out to Eye to Eye by the Goofy movie. Right. I was like, that was pretty dope too. But it's got to be Blue. Like, that just sets the tone for what a Super Beetle match is. Right. Now, does it get the crowd pretty pumped up? As far as I know, when the past couple months, like, people have been messaging me that come to the shows and they say, why that song? That same thing you said, like, that song I took me back to 99, and I was so happy, like, why that song? Yeah. And I'm just like, that's exactly why that song.
I heard it when they played it for me. I was like, oh my god, I haven't heard that song in ages.
Yes.
And it does get you a little.
I stood up when I first heard it.
Really?
Here we go.
Now, that was your first show, you said, right, in the mountain?
Yeah. Now, for Empire Wrestling Federation, everyone kind of debuts at Mountain Lakes. It's a private show that we put on just for that resort. Oh, okay. So that's kind of testing grounds for us.
How long had you been training before you debuted?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years I've been training. I guess I took maybe a 3 or 4 month break just because work and everything got busy. And by the time I came back, it was just like, all right, I decided I don't want to work a real job anymore. Let's just throw myself into this wrestling thing pretty hard and see how that goes.
Did it? And it looks like it's working out, right?
Currently, yes. Yeah. Ask me in 2 weeks. We'll see.
Well, all right, let me ask you this. So how old were you first? I mean, it's a cliche question, but how old were you when you first decided that you wanted to try to wrestle?
Oh gosh, I think it was 2013, I want to say, and my brother would come me, because the way it happened is my brother was getting married. He's not a party guy, he's not any of that stuff, but we've always watched wrestling together. So maybe 2 weeks out before the wedding, I was like, I'm the best man. does that mean I'm in charge of the bachelor party? What are we doing? And everyone I kept asking, like all his groomsmen, they're like, oh, no, that's you. Like, you decide something. I was like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
So I called up Jesse Hernandez, and I was like, hey, can we take a wrestling class? Just for a day. Your people can beat the tar out of us, and we'll just have a good time and go home completely broken. And he's like, yeah, sure, come on out. He gave me like a flat price for like 10 people. It was awesome. 3 people actually showed up, me, my brother, and the other best man, I guess. And it was from the first time you hit the mat. First time you hit the mat, you're like, that was kind of awesome. Like, I want to do this a lot more. And I remember he let us run kind of like a pseudo 8-man at the end with whoever was there, and my brother and the other groomsmen. And one of the people there, one of the only people that's still around to this day, was Andy Brown. So I'm sitting on the apron waiting to get tagged. I'm like, this is so cool. I'm in a real wrestling match. This is awesome. I'm gonna come in and like stunner somebody. And Andy gets tagged in, takes down my brother in the middle of the ring, comes straight at me, throws his elbow straight into my jaw. Like, it wasn't a forearm, it was an elbow to the jaw. And I legitimately just fell to the ground off the apron. And I remember hitting the ground and like feeling my jaw pop back, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do this more so I can get him back. Like, that was the driving force of the first 2 weeks of practice. Is like, I'm gonna pop this guy again. But that was kind of awesome.
Right. Did you pop him?
Eventually, yeah. He's certainly popped me a lot more than I popped him since then. So,
when you decided to do it, and were you the first day of the training? Did you get a little more nervous? Like, was it a little reality check kick in? Like,
yeah, absolutely. Because we all this happened in like October, and I decided, you know what? Let me put school on hold and everything. Let me go to school or to wrestling school in January. So first chance I did, January 3rd was like the first day they had training of that year. I was like, let's do this. Obviously, I'm not the only person that has that idea.
Right.
So it was like me and 3 other new guys that were like, we're all going to be the next 4 horsemen. It's going to be awesome. 3 weeks later, it's me and 1 other new guy left. And so it's kind of like, all right, everyone else is gone. How are we going to do this?
Right.
So I don't know, wrestling school, the first 2 weeks are great. It's kind of that honeymoon stage. And then the 3rd week hits and you're like, oh, wow, this is a lot of work. Let me keep going. And anyone that makes it past those first 2 weeks, I would say almost always at least makes it to their first match.
Right. Now, why EWF? I mean, you said you reached Jesse Hernandez. Had you worked for them before? I mean, or
no? Honestly, my first indie show was PWG, and so I saw Jesse in the stands there, and then I went to an EWF show like months later, expecting it to be the same thing. Obviously, it's not. 2 different, completely different styles. So I went to the EWF show a couple months later. Still awesome. I was just like, this is amazing and everything. And then I saw Jesse there too, and I was like, all right. So this guy's in these 2 places. There's something to this. And I messaged other wrestling schools as well. Just nobody got back to me. Plus, I lived in Rancho Cucamonga.
Oh, okay,
so
yeah.
San Bernardino was right there.
Right. Makes sense. Now, PWG, because I know they want to know, what was the big match that night?
Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano. And ever since then, those 2 have been the tip top of my indie. Like, not even, I guess they're not indie anymore, but my idols in indie wrestling.
Right.
Is the ultimate heel and the ultimate face to me.
I can see she already marked out for it. Adam Cole. Now, I hear you're a big Kenny Omega fan.
Yes. Like, who isn't a big Kenny Omega fan? Look at the bear. Like, Kenny Omega is huge right now. And I remember I did ring crew for PWG, for EWF, way a long time ago. I want to say it was an all-star weekend of some sort. Kenny Omega was there versus Will Ospreay. And it wasn't the high-flying match you think it was. Like, Kenny Omega was in the corner and did the chainsaw arm to Will Ospreay, and everyone went insane. And I was like, this is amazing, because they know you're going to see 10 million flips throughout that night.
Right.
But they're 2 of the guys that can do it the best, and they went out there and said, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're going to do something else. We're going to give them a different flavor. So that's a big reason of why I like Kenny Omega, because he not that he knows his place on the card, but he knows what to put where to just be different from the rest of the card.
How hard is it for you, like, for example, if you come up with that game plan and then you see everybody else is doing, like you said, like flips and all this, do you come in, after you see that, do you like change your style?
Oh, absolutely. I was on what I was talking about just a second ago, Desert Pro Wrestling. Mm-hmm. I was on that card with Andy Brown, Peter Avalon, Eli Everfly, a lot of guys that just, like, can run circles around me in a wrestling ring. And I'm like, okay, I got to go in this not having that match. It was me versus Uday, and we were second match on the card, and we just kind of went out there and entertained, because every other person on this match is going to wrestle. Every other person in this match is going to flip. Is going to do something to woo the crowd. I'm going to make the crowd laugh. I'm going to make the crowd remember like why they laughed at my match and not why they were surprised or anything. Because I'm not. I can do some flips. I'm not a huge flip guy, obviously. That's not to talk down to flips, because those are insane.
Right.
Like the guys that can do them well, A1. That's just not my style, especially right now.
Yeah. Lefty, what impressed you the most about Super Beetle when you first saw him?
The style, yeah. Like, you connect with like people really easily.
It's the song, I'm telling you.
Yeah, that, and then around like kids, everybody, they're just all into it. Just the energy, like it really changes at that moment.
Were you like a big kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That song hit me. Woo! Man, that was on.
Hey.
That's the guy.
When you first, so which match would you say made you fall in love with wrestling? Was it a WWE match, a PWG match?
See, I don't remember truly appreciating wrestling for the wrestling until like I saw a Daniel Bryan match at some point, and it's the most cliche thing to say. But I fell out of wrestling around 2010 as I was graduating and everything.
Were you into it during the Attitude Era?
Yeah, absolutely. The first time I laid eyes on wrestling was it was Raw the night after Survivor Series, and they showed a replay of Stone Cold getting hit by a car.
Oh yeah.
And I just remember like them presenting it as real and everything. I was like, what is happening? Why did we just watch murder on screen? Why is this happening?
Right.
Like, this is insane. Let's keep watching.
I was so pissed off. And I bought the Survivor Series just to see Austin, and then they wrote him out.
Yep.
I was like, what the?
And that was my first experience with wrestling. And so ever since then, it was The Rock, it was Stone Cold, it was these larger-than-life characters, The Undertaker. I was like, oh, the match is on? All right, let me go do something else. Oh, great. They're talking again.
Right.
Let's do that. And it's very, very opposite from, like, every other wrestler I've heard. But I fell out around 2010. And I remember, even before that, I could be like, oh, this was a great wrestling match. And then 2013, 2014, I came back in. Whenever The Rock versus Cena...
Yeah.
I want to say Rock versus Cena 2.
Yeah, I think
was
it was
the first
2013. Yeah, about there.
Yeah.
13.
And I came back and I started watching Raw again, and I saw a Daniel Bryan match, and I was like, how does he do that? That was insane. Like, just these amazing feats of athleticism. And I started falling in love with that, and I started diving into psychology of matches and all this stuff, all this other stuff. And anytime anybody would talk, I would be like, all right, come on, get to the next wrestling part. So I don't remember being in love with the wrestling part of it until much later on in life. Because as a kid, I tried to watch TNA, I tried to watch Ring of Honor, but I'm like, where are the lights? Where's the stage? Like, what is this?
That's what nobody gets it when they ask me, like, did you watch WCW? Because, I grew up in watching the 80s, early 90s,
mm-hmm.
and then WCW took over, being number one. And everybody's like, oh, did you ever watch WCW when they had the NWO, Goldberg, and all that? And I'm like, honestly, I couldn't. Because the production value was so bad compared to WWE.
Yeah, and you can look back on the network now.
Yeah.
Like the quality of that video. I don't know. It's probably like a Vince McMahon thing. He's probably like, hey, let's dumb down the WCW video quite a bit so we look better anyways 50 years down the road.
Yeah. What happened?
Yeah, that's why we won.
That's why we won, because we had the better production. It was just bad. I couldn't get used to it. I couldn't get used to the bad production quality of it.
And even people I know, I'll try to get them into Ring of Honor now. I'll try to get them into even New Japan. They're getting better about it. But they as soon as I turn it on, somebody's like, where's all the lights? Where's the arena full of people? And I really like that style now where the lights are dumbed down and just on the ring. Yeah. Where you just focus on the wrestling. And I've had to learn that it's just not for some people.
Yeah, like the NXT, it took me a while when I first watched NXT to get used to that. Just the spotlight being back on top of the ring.
Even the camera being on the other side is so jarring for some people for NXT. And they're smart about it because they do these little production things. I don't know if you remember when SmackDown and Raw first split again. SmackDown did the jib camera instead of the hard cam. Yeah. And like that turned a lot of people off to SmackDown. More so than I thought. But these things are programmed into your mind because you watch WWE for so long that when you see something else, you're like, that's not wrestling. It sucks to say it makes it look a little more fake than wrestling is to some people. Yeah,
it takes me a while. I watch Lucha Underground, and that's the problem I have with Lucha
absolutely.
Underground. I can't get used to the camera work or the production of it. I mean, I get it's supposed to look like a underground arena fight thing, but I can't get used to it. I'm like, this looks so under budget compared to WWE, and I mean the wrestling's fine, but I just can't. And like they show me some New Japan stuff, and it takes me a while before I'm like, okay, I can appreciate the wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely.
But most of the time I'm like you said, you see the camera angles, everything. You get so used to the camera angles and the production that you're like, this isn't wrestling.
Yeah, I think something really clicked in my head when I was showing a friend a New Japan match. It had to have been Kenny versus Okada from Wrestle Kingdom, now that I think about it.
You made her smile.
And
you're making everybody smile today.
That's what I do. And I was showing him it, and we sit down, and he just goes, why is the crowd so bored?
Yeah.
And then it clicked to me, like, that's what it looks like from the outside, because they don't know that other culture. And it's the same way, like, wrestling has cultures in different places. These fans are sitting there appreciating it, waiting for the golf clap moment, and like eventually, even in Kenny and Okada, they build up to that cheering moment. But at the start of the match, it's very quiet, it's very looking on, it's very big fight feel for us, but for the outside eyes, these are just two guys doing hold to hold in the ring that nobody's really reacting to. So and that's where WWE has the leg up with these people, is showing the crowd.
Right.
You still see the signs. You still see people with their shirts on. You're like, okay, they're still there. New Japan has that one light, and you're like, it's the empty arena Sunday Night Heat show.
Yeah, and it's so hard to get into the match, too, sometimes. Like, when we watch Raw and it's a dead crowd, you're just like, oh, this takes away from... But I think it's the same thing, like you said. Every culture has their own fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in the ring, if the crowd is there, the crowd is there, and you're 10 times more there. You're 10 times more on fire, more focused. And if the crowd's not there, like, you already know you have to work harder. You're like, all right, let's get them back into it. Let's do this. Let's bring the heat. And it's a lot harder when you go out there and the crowd's sitting on their hands already than if you go out there to an insanely hot crowd. You've been to Covina. And Covina, that crowd is ready to be entertained the whole time. They're excited for the wrestlers to come out. When Blue hits, they get excited. Like, it's a terrible song back in the 90s. Fantastic song today, I'm going to be honest.
It's got to be known. Not just make it known for Super Beetle.
That's the only reason I'm like, oh, it's his song.
No one's going to remember.
I don't even remember who did it.
Exactly. Everyone's like, who's your song by? I was like, hold on, let me Google it real quick. Because I just remember the blue aliens in the music video. I don't remember the rest of it.
And it's actually pretty smart because, Ric Flair, with his song, even though when you, like, if you go to a movie and you hear that song, you don't think about the original purpose of that song. You're like,
that's not Ric Flair's song.
Right. Daniel Bryan, that's the reason Daniel Bryan picked his song. Was he's like, whenever you hear it in a movie, a commercial, I want you to think of Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan.
And I think that's what you're doing with your song.
I really hope so. And it happened the first time the other day where I came out and people were singing it. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Because if you have ever tried to hear 30, 40 people try to synchronize going da bin dee da do da da bin dee, it's fantastic. And I was like, I'll stick with this song.
You know what? Speaking of cultures, every indie show has its own. Isn't it funny how AWS has its own type of crowd?
Yep.
EWF has its own type of crowd. PWG has its own type of crowd. PCW. Have you gone, like, how you said that sometimes you have to work a little harder to get the crowd into it? Has it happened to you where you've gone to a show and you're like, oh, this crowd is dead. I need to do something to...
Oh, yeah. Any crowd that's not a wrestling crowd is a crowd that we did right around here, National Night Out last year. And it's like a police fundraiser.
Okay.
And they're just there because their kids are in the police programs and all that stuff. And you go out there and they're like, oh, wrestling. I remember we're going to see Hulk Hogan come out. And it's like, no, you're going to see these guys that you've never heard of before wrestle in this ring. And you get to touch it and feel how it feels and everything. So any crowd that isn't programmed to how wrestlers think, like if I'm in there and I'm doing the hip shake, I want you to clap. Right. That's what it is. It's hitting the beats so that you'll clap with it. Or any wrestler that just goes out there and clap, instead of this, all right, I'm gonna dive, it has to be, all right, I'm gonna dive 10 times bigger so that people understand, oh, he wants us to do that.
Right.
So those crowds are always a little bit harder, but once they get into it, they start to have fun. You just have to go into wrestling wanting to have fun, and I think that's a big advantage of the Covina crowd, the EWF arena crowd, is that they all go there knowing what we do and knowing that the people they're seeing 6 years ago, the people they were seeing was the Bucks, TJ Perkins, Ryan Taylor, And we may not be there now. We're all students. We've all always been students. But, like, these are the stars of tomorrow being built. And so the crowd in Covina especially is very good about reacting to everything because they're really on board with what we try to do there. And that's build, obviously, the up-and-comers, the stars of tomorrow.
Yeah, I know the EWF is a more family-oriented show and crowd. Now, here's the tough question. Now you won the Wrestle Circus poll. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
And a lot of people were shocked because you were like a little bit below Evilise, and all of a sudden,
there's a story to this because you asked me to be on this podcast Wednesday morning.
Okay.
Wednesday night, I did the Twitch stream and everything. Got a whole bunch of new followers from that, and so I was like, dope. I was on a wrestle high, so I entered into that poll. So, to your credit, you didn't ask me to be on here because I'm on Wrestle Circus.
Right.
You asked me far before that. Hours before. And so I entered the poll and everything. It gets put up the next morning. I see it, and I see Evilise on there, and I was like, all right, that was fun. Yeah. Cool time. And I see all these other names. AJ Gray, if you look him up, he's been killing it over on the East Coast and everything. Vinny, he's in Lucha Underground too. Yeah. Super nice guy. Has a lot of fans too. And so I was like, all right, that was fun. Whatever. 2 hours later, one of my fans tweets it to me, and I'm like 6 votes under Evilise, and we're both like 30 votes ahead of everyone else. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should tweet this out. Maybe I should get in front of this and everything. And then it just kind of snowballed from there and got insanely huge. And I remember watching at like 11 o'clock at night as I just inched closer, and then we tied. And I took a picture of it, and I was like, if it ends here, if I go down, if it's nothing else, this is a win. This is going to motivate me for the next year in wrestling. Right. Just that I got to that point. And then I woke up the next morning, and I was 10 votes ahead, and then later, and it just kept going. So it's a really... I honestly feel like I contributed nothing to this, and it was all the bugs, everybody that voted for me.
It was, because you have 2 bugs here that... Well, one bug that's holding the camera. Well, was holding the camera. And she's a little nervous. She's the one that says, hey, you should have Super Beetle on. And I'm like, well, yeah, I've thought about it, but the podcast is a little bit on a break. So, And she's like, well, just reach out to him. I really want him to be on the show. So I'm like, okay, that's when I
bring it back.
And and I said, okay, we'll bring it back. And then I think that day when it was like really close, we were a little bit under Evilise. And then she's like, you need to vote for your Super Beetle. Here's the link. And it was her and another guy named Norm. I think Emma. I don't know if Lefty was in on this, but it was MIA at the time. And they're like, "You gotta vote for Super
Lefty
Beetle."
voted for somebody else. No, don't lie.
He voted for
because there are other SoCal guys on that.
We're all the same.
No, when one says vote for somebody, we're like, okay, let's vote. And so you had 2 bugs here and one in San Francisco. Yeah, and he got his friends to vote. They wanted to see you on it, and they actually were really happy because they said that, you know, a lot of guys weren't jumping on the opportunity to do, you know, to put their name out there. And, you know, I think a lot of people, not everybody, and I might be wrong, I think a lot of them just thought they were too good to be booked that way.
You're absolutely right. There's a lot of guys that are like, and I got asked by guys while it was going on, like, you're begging for votes now? What are you doing? And I'm like, no, I'm just asking people, like, hey, this is kind of cool. What if I'm there? Like, how insane would it be? And I know guys that didn't put their name in because they're, I don't want to beg for votes. I don't want to seem needy or anything. And I'm like, that's fine. Vote for me then. Yeah. I'll go in there.
Push them my way.
Yeah, I'll go in there and try it. So and there were other SoCal guys on there, and I was like, why aren't these guys doing better? They're fantastic. They're known throughout SoCal far more than I am.
Right.
And it's just like I went to their social medias because I'm interested in this kind of stuff, the whole social economy and everything. Right. And they just didn't retweet it. They just didn't put it out there. And I'm like, everyone would have done so much better.
Yeah, I think it would have. I don't know why. I was telling them, I think, and they agree with it, and they were saying the same thing, which is, you just need to get out there. You just need to get your name out there. It's an opportunity, you know, especially Wrestle Circus, which is trying to become like a PWG. I think,
absolutely.
in Texas.
It's and I'll put them over PWG a little bit because they use Texas talent.
Yeah,
like that's a big thing about Wrestle Circus. Is they bring in these big names, but everyone on that undercard, you know now because they're local Texas people that they bring in. They're like, all right, we're giving you a chance. Half of those names like I'd never heard before Wrestle Circus, and now everyone at training knows them, or everyone that I talk to that watches any wrestling knows them. Plus, I think they're sort of on the cutting edge where every wrestling company has their own kind of streaming service now, and every company wants you to pay $9.99 for their streaming service. Oh, we don't have as much as the WWE. Ours is $4.99. Let's cut that in half a little bit. Whereas Wrestle Circus is like, oh, there's this company who already specializes in that, who already has this install base of an audience and Twitch and video games and everything. Guess what? Half of those people are probably wrestling fans. Let's call them up and let's see what we can do with them. So very quickly they became a Twitch partner. Right. And if you go on their page, I guess the show before last had like 8,000 people watching live. It's free. Absolutely. Awesome. But you go on their page now, that show has reached 200,000 people. Yeah. And it's like, what other company can just... And PWG is PWG because of the exclusivity. Right. It's the hot ticket because nobody can get in. It's that hot nightclub kind of. Whereas Wrestle Circus is like, hey, this is for everyone. There's these amazing matches. Also, there's these names that we want you to know. Right. Sammy Guevara, insanely cool. Everybody knows him. He's been out in SoCal a couple times. And Wrestle Circus really took him and launched him into the stratosphere. He was already good. He's still good on his own merit. Right. But they gave him that platform to shoot. Yeah, I don't think I knew who he was until Wrestle Circus was just... Yeah, they were just pushing him. And I'm like, all right, let me see who this guy is. And then I saw him, and I'm like, okay. And then he got booked here, and I was like, okay, this guy's going. Yeah, exactly. Places. And a lot of people attributed him on PWG to Wrestle Circus. But, like, that guy made his way, his own way. He's doing all this stuff social media-wise, interacting with all his fans everywhere and everything. But at the same time, like, you have that company behind you, and that company's getting your name out there and everywhere and just throwing it to the 7 wins. People watched him. People took notice. Yeah. Now, are you nervous because, and this is what I was going to get to, which is you go from the EWF crowd, which is a little more family-oriented, you know, which we'll get to the Super Beetle. But now you're going to Wrestle Circus, which is a little more PWG crowd, maybe. Are you nervous about, like, are you going to get over with that crowd, or are you going to... I'll tell you 2 reasons why I'm not nervous. I was going to say why I'm not over with that crowd. Why I'm not nervous about that. The first one is because everyone on that show will probably come out and throw a middle finger at some point. Right. I will not. Just like I was talking about how everyone in that other show would wrestle circles around me. Everyone in this show can wrestle circles around me 100 times more. And so it's just going out there and not being that same thing they've seen before 100 times. And I think the match that they had put me in is really going to speak to that. It's me and Space Monkey on Team Jervis, right, managed by Jervis, Gentleman Jervis, against Ethan Page and JC Rez. And we're not guys that are going to go out there. I mean, they definitely are. I'm not a guy that's going to go out there and put on the same match that you see between Sammy Guevara and Shane Strickland. So I think that kind of it's not so much a detriment as it is a advantage, especially on that show. Okay. Because you're going to see that match 6-7 times on that show. And everyone's going to try to be different, and everyone's going to do their thing. But when you go in there with a completely different mindset, that, like, we're not going to tear the house down. We're going to give these people something to remember. I like that. I'm glad, because we were talking about that, like, it's going to be a different crowd. Oh, absolutely. Like, we're a little nervous here. Let's go into the psychology of Blue for a second. When's the first time you heard Blue? Ooh, the song? Yeah. Ooh, in the 90s. How old were you? Probably, 16, 17?
I was getting my ass whipped. She was
So every time you hear me come out, that's what it takes you back to, is like your mom just beating you down?
Yeah.
God, that's kind of sad, huh?
I
think when I heard it again, I just thought, like, dang, high school.
Exactly, and you hear that, like, I'll be honest, most of my fans are kids.
Right.
Kids absolutely, like, gravitate towards my matches. But you hear that song and you're taken back down to 16 years old, that puts you in that mindset to enjoy what I do a little more. Right. So it's fun to kind of play with it that way. Yeah. And I see your point too, because when you get the song, you're like, oh, this is gonna be a playful kind of match. It's not gonna be, like you said, Strickland versus Guevara. Mm-hmm. This is gonna be
something to entertain us in a different way.
You hear that, you remember back in the day, you're like, oh man, I appreciated wrestling, The Rock, and all this stuff. And you're like, oh wait, that's what's happening in front of me. Let me appreciate this.
Yeah. Unless you're Lefty, who's going to imagine getting beat up by his mom.
No, not anymore.
So what inspired the Super Beetle gimmick?
A lot of things. I'm really into, I guess not Japanese culture so much as just one facet of it, and it's called tokusatsu.
Toku Titan, explain that.
The Toku Titan comes from tokusatsu. You have a very puzzled look on your face right now.
Well, two reasons. One, because of that, and two, because he never asks questions. Go ahead.
I had that one.
Yeah.
Tokusatsu quite literally translates into special effects.
Okay.
So tokusatsu in Japan is Power Rangers, Ultraman, Godzilla, Kamen Rider, which is the big kind of influence on me, I guess. If you watched Power Rangers back in the day, back in the 90s, there's a show that came on right after it called Master Rider. Mm-hmm. And that show's been around for 40 years now, almost. And it's still going. So that was very what I took this from. A couple of things were given to me from certain places. People said, oh, you should do this, you should do this. And I just took it all and kind of bundled it up into one. And I realized, like, this, everyone says turn it up to 11. And that's your gimmick. Turn whatever you are up to 11. And it just kind of became, I was supposed to be very kind of one-dimensional. And it just became like, oh no, this is me, quite literally turned up to 11. I dance when I hear random songs in a Walmart. Like, that's definitely me. And so the Toku Titan aspect was like, okay, I want to show people also what I like and see who else likes that kind of stuff and get maybe a different kind of wrestling fan than they're used to.
Right.
So I get a lot of fans that are fans of Power Rangers and Godzilla, or wrestling and Ultraman. Just remember it from back in the day. They're like, why do you do this? What makes you think of this stuff and like put it out there? And I'm just like, this is just what I enjoy.
Right.
I was a kid. I can remember at Mama Bug and Papa Bug's wedding, there's a video out there, and it's just me throwing kicks in the air while my uncle's like holding me back, and he's like, no, this is not your moment, this is their moment. Let's step back into, and I'm just there throwing punches. Like, I legitimately thought I was a Power Ranger when I was little. That's what I wanted to be when I grew up. And oh look, that's what I became. It's just kind of wrestling gives you that fantastic, unique opportunity where it's like, oh, I want to be a milkman. I can do the gimmick, the milkman. Right. And I said, oh shoot, I want to be a Japanese superhero. Let's do that.
Now, did you like the new Power Ranger movie?
Absolutely.
Really? Did you like it?
You want to get into this? We'll get into this right now.
I'm just wondering. You know what? Well, a lot of people that liked the original Power Rangers, I heard they didn't like it. I watched the original Power Rangers off and on, and then I think once they started changing like the
every season,
they had like, and then they tried to reboot it, and what was there, like 3 reboots or something?
Like dinosaur-ish.
Yeah.
After a while,
I enjoyed the movie. I really did. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of Power Rangers, but I enjoyed the movie, so that's why I was asking. I was surprised that, you know. I
will say I'm super biased, and I was going to come out of that movie liking it no matter what.
Oh, okay.
Adrian Quest is also a big tokusatsu fan, and in Japan it's called Super Sentai, and so they don't go hand in hand very much. It's basically they just share footage because they're two completely different stories.
Okay.
And so we both went into that movie like, you know what, whatever this is a Power Rangers movie on the big screen, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic no matter what. And it was I'll say it was better than it had any right to be.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think I would cry at a part in that movie, and I cried at a part in that movie, and I was like, you know what? You got me.
I know.
Everyone knows what part I'm talking about.
You got me too.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll just say it goes with the song. But it got me too. It got me too. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, okay. You know what I like too is that it looked modern. It didn't look like like the TV where it looked cheap.
Up to date. Yeah.
But when they went to the fight scene, it went back to the old school look.
You know, they didn't overdo it with all these lasers.
And I popped a little bit when the song came on. I was like, what the
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Did you see Tommy and Kimberly with some cameos?
But then I heard they might not do part 2. After all, because they
didn't get good reception. Yeah, and it's like, if anything, so before this, the only Power Ranger movie, I guess modern Power Ranger movie we had was Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim, they called them Rangers. Like, you don't get any more Power Ranger than that.
Right.
So it's like, this is amazing. He has the sword that comes out. Fine, that's it. And then they were like, we're doing Power Rangers, and then they actually started doing Power Rangers, and you're like, all right, if anything, I got to give this a chance.
Yeah.
So that's like all I wanted. So if we never get a part 2, at least we have that one little offshoot where it kind of like that's new kids will know that as Power Rangers, and I'm fine with that.
You know why I didn't like Power Rangers originally? Because for me they were a rip-off of Voltron. I don't know if you guys ever saw Voltron.
Yeah.
Everybody saw Voltron.
Yeah. They were a rip-off to me of Voltron. I like Voltron. Except I can't get used to the Netflix series. It's too modern. I can't get used
Too
to
modern. I like the Power Rangers is too modern, but this Voltron, way too modern.
Way too modern for me. I can't get used to it. I did not know Adrian Quest was a big Power Ranger.
Huge Power Rangers fan.
I did not know that.
Huge. We there's a place down here in Little Tokyo called Anime Jungle. Okay. And they have one shop. Yeah. They have one shop that's just anime on one side. If you go to the other side of the shop, it's just tokusatsu galore. And they have like old school toys and everything. And we come down here just for that sometimes.
Really?
Just to go in the shop. We can't buy anything. Like all this stuff's like $300 for the old school stuff, and we're just like, man, that looks really, really cool. Remember when I had that as a kid and I didn't know it was going to be worth $300 today?
Yeah. That's what I say when I see the Voltron,
yep,
the whole robot, and I'm like, I had the whole thing, and now it's like $500.
Like, Christine, like, Mom, why did you throw it out?
Yeah, like I tell people, I had the LJN, the old WWE half figures, and now they're like, what, 30, 40, $50?
Yeah.
And I had them, my grandma sold them for like 25 cents each. And I was like, what the
We used to have the toys where they had the magnets at the bottom, and you put them on the Titantron.
Oh, yeah.
And it would play their music.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I'd play with it. We ran it down. We threw it away eventually. And I went to Frankenstein's like 3 weeks ago. Those toys are like $60 now. I'm like, that could have been my toy. And,
exactly.
And Papa Bug is a complete, like, I forgot what you call it, hoarder.
Oh, okay.
Complete hoarder of that stuff. He has, and it was funny because when we were younger, we were like, why can't I play with this? He would be like, oh, that's a nice toy you got. Here, let's put it in the garage for now so that it like stays away. But the one thing I always point to is when Pokemon, the first movie came out, Burger King sold gold-plated Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
We still have that entire set because he told us we could never touch them and they would stay in the garage, and he still has them to this day.
Wait.
They're probably like barely worth $40, but he's just like, you know what? One day these are going to be it.
Yeah. One day, that's what I tried to do with the little. I don't know if you guys remember when McDonald's used to release all the little. They did like the 50th anniversary of the Disney.
Mm-hmm.
So they had like 4 Mickey Mouse. Like one was Steamboat Willie and one was.
I remember.
I went every McDonald's to get almost all of them, and I regret it now because now you see them like on eBay. Like the whole collection is like for like a couple $100. And I was like, crap.
The worst part is when you go and you ask them for a certain one, and they're like, oh, no, sorry, we're out. And you're like, I know you're not out.
Well, I have a McDonald's Connect now. So.
Like, just think about if the smartphone was around back in the day, and you can just go on there and be like, which McDonald's has the Steamboat Willie?
Yeah.
And how flooded that McDonald's would be of people that one McDonald's has Steamboat Willie in stock.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to like 10 different McDonald's for that Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, and back in the day, they could just be like, no, sorry, and then you walk out and they give it to the next kid, and they're just like, like, I wanted this. Sorry.
Now, did you wrestle? I mean, did you do any sports before wrestling? Or
I remember going into 8th grade wanting to be a wrestler, wanting to wrestle. And I went into, this is a completely true story, and I feel stupid today saying it. I went into the first wrestling meeting, and they had us watch last year's state championships that my school had competed in. And I remember watching on TV, they play it, they start, I let it go probably 3 minutes, and I go, where are the ropes? What's happening? I don't get this. And I got out and walked. I got up and walked away. And I regret it to this day, and it's so stupid, but like that's what I was as a kid. I was just like, we're Stone Cold. That's not how. Who's gonna cut a promo in this match?
Where's the mic?
Yeah.
Don't feel bad. I was like that too. And I saw the first time I saw amateur wrestling. I'm like, that's not wrestling.
I was like, someone's gonna come with the chair right now.
My teacher actually in 8th grade told me like, I wrestled in college. I'm like, oh, well, what kind of wrestling? Oh, you wrestled Hogan? And he's like, no, I wrestled in school. I'm like, what is that?
Hogan in school?
Yeah, and I'm like, so he's like, well, let's have a wrestling match. I'm like, okay, I'll get you in the sharpshooter. And then he did this amateur wrestling move, and he's like, one. I'm like, and he pinned me, and it's the one. And he goes, I win. And I'm like, no, you don't. I go, it's 1, 2, 3. And he's like, you got a lot to learn. You have a lot
You're like,
to
hold
learn.
on, let me go grab a chair.
Yeah. So
3
he did.
stages of hell right now, Teach. Let's do this.
He brought me a video like the next day, and he's like, watch this. And then I was like, oh.
We're just like, oh, that's still not wrestling.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's not. Where's my WWE? Where's my ropes?
Who's the Vince McMahon of this association?
Exactly.
Who's trying to screw over the boss in
nothing.
NCAA?
I was like, no. Now I appreciate it a little more, but at that time I was like,
And the worst part is, I knew who Kurt Angle was at the time. I'd seen Kurt Angle do all this stuff, and I'm just like, this is dumb. Where like that could have helped me in the long run, but at the same time, I'm just like, yeah, this isn't my wrestling. Sorry, bye.
How old were you, Lefty, when you found out it was scripted?
It's not scripted. Is it?
Yeah. Oh, damn. I'm
At
sorry,
the,
Lefty.
at the top level at the WWE, yes. What we do, no.
No. How old were you when you?
Probably like 14.
14? Who told you?
My mom.
Your mom?
Yeah,
After she hit you?
yeah, pretty much. That's why it happened. Because I was like, it's real. And I screamed at her.
The chancla was out, Louis was playing, and he was just like, it's real.
It's the chancla.
Bam!
I left the Nike like mark on my
How old were you when you?
Oh, gosh.
And who told you?
People told me a lot of the times, and just to throw out how warped in wrestling I was. My first fight was in 6th grade.
Uh-oh.
It was Friday afternoon, right after SmackDown.
Oh, shit.
On Thursdays.
Yeah.
And on the night before on SmackDown, John Cena could not hit JBL or else he would lose his title match. I think it was at Mania he would lose his title match. And somebody called me a name, and I said, don't call me that. This guy was a big, buff gangster, like, been in 12 fights before. And I said, don't call me that. And he's like, what'd you say? Get up. So I got up, and he threw my desk. He's like, don't call me that. Or he was like, sorry. He's like, say it to my face. And I was like, oh, gosh, I'm going to fight. Okay. Please don't call me that. And he's like, what are you going to do about it? And he was already mad about something else. Starts pushing me with his belly and everything. And I'm like, oh, my God. What would a wrestler do? What did John Cena do? And I go, you want this? Hit me. Come on. Go ahead. And I stick out my chin and I point to it. And I'm like, hit me. Come on. And he goes, what? And he's like super confused. And I was like, come on. I said hit me. B word, because John Cena had said the B word the night before. And at this point, the whole class is watching. And they're like, ooh. And somebody points out, like, hey, don't hit him, because he knows if you hit him first, you'll get in trouble. And I was like, that's a genius idea. So I just ran with that. I fully dove in, and I was like, come on, hit me. Like, I'll shine it up for you. I just completely ripped off what John Cena had said the night before. I'll shine it up for you. Come on, are you a B word? Blah, blah, blah. The whole time. Finally, my teacher, like, notices what's happening and calls me. I turn around, and this guy just starts firing on me. And pulls us apart, takes us to the principal's office. And lunch had just started, so everyone's just staring there like, oh, he just fought Joe. Oh, Beetle just fought Joe. Oh my gosh. And I was just like, felt like the coolest I've ever felt before wrestling. At that point I was just like, yeah, I did. Yeah, we get in there. I'm instantly brought back down to a 5-year-old level, because the principal's looking at me. He's like, so you told him to hit you? And I was like, yes, sir. He goes, takes it, like, everything off of his desk and puts it in his drawer, closes it, and looks straight up at me. He's like, what did you think would happen? And I was like, I didn't think he'd hit me. And he's like, okay, well, we're gonna send you home for the day. Come back on Monday. That should be enough. Whatever. This guy got suspended for like 3 weeks. I got suspended for a day. So in turn, genius idea, because he hit me first. So but back to your original question. Sorry.
No more. Don't let that inspire you.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, I get out, and Mom Bug and Papa Bug pick me up, and she's like, it's because of wrestling. And my dad's like, yeah, it probably is. And then we went home and watched Raw the next Monday. Like I'll give them that much. They were never like, let's take away wrestling or anything. They took away Married with Children for some reason. For like a year. For like a year for some reason. They're like, you can't watch that. But wrestling, go ahead. Stone Cold's totally like stunning Stephanie McMahon. Do it.
But don't watch Married with Children.
But back to your question, it took me a long time to fully figure out, because even now you still have like, oh, was that real? Did he really tag him? So I still get that kind of feeling now, where it's like, oh, they got something between them. That's they're gonna hit each other real hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably when I came back into wrestling when I was like, all right, this might not be real, but it's entertaining as heck.
Yeah. I was told twice. I was told like in 6th grade. My friend who was a big WWF fan at the time, and he got me a little more into it. He got me into the magazines and stuff, and then he's like, "You do know it's fake, right?" And I'm like, "No, it's not fake."
And I used to be the kid all the time. There's no, you're fake. And
Exactly.
just throw back anything I could find.
I was pissed when he told me. I was
And
like, "No."
Now I'm just like, yeah, so is Spider-Man, so is Game of Thrones. All that other stuff I enjoy, that's fake too. Like, why not have something like I could never go and meet Spider-Man, like the Spider-Man that's done all the things that Peter Parker's done. I can meet the actors and everything. I can go out there and meet Triple H. I can go out there and meet The Rock. These people from my childhood who weren't just in one movie or two. They were 20 years worth of stories that I watched. And like, wrestling's fake, but the way wrestling makes everyone feel is not fake.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. Like even here, you have all the boards of everyone that's been in here, and like I guarantee you, growing up, you're like Marty Jannetty, whatever, and then you meet Marty Jannetty, and you're like, "Sir, it's an honor. I used to watch you all the time.
Yeah.
This is fantastic," and you're just instantly taken back to being a kid.
Yeah.
Like that's wrestling.
Yeah. That's what I mean. I don't mark out as much, but inside I do. Like I met Batista. I always tell people like, "Shut up." I met Batista, and I was like, I can't mark out. This is Batista, but inside I was like, this is freaking Batista.
Yeah, she's huge.
Yeah, this is Drax. This is Batista. Have you marked out for anybody? Like,
before I began wrestling training, I went to San Diego Comic-Con. I want to say it was 2012 or 2011, one of those two. And Triple H walked past me, and I was like, Triple H, yeah! Gave me a high five. He was doing something for Saints Row, the video game. Gives me a high five, and I was like, that's Triple H! What the heck? And then 2 years later, I'm starting to get into wrestling more. CM Punk had just left WWE. Just left on terrible terms, like the real time he left. Not the time when he was like, I got this title. He did a podcast with Freddie Wong, their big YouTube channel.
Okay.
And I had done a couple projects with them. So I knew one of the guys, and I was like, hey, can I meet Punk? And he's like, yeah, come on, sure. Brought me on stage after the podcast. And I met CM. It was just like a quick, hey, how's it going? Let's take a picture. Thanks, bye, sir. But like I went back, and everyone was jealous that I got that picture with CM Punk. I'm like, marked out there. And even now, you try to hold it in, but this Saturday I'm on the same card as Cody Rhodes and like Jervis Cottonbelly and all these wrestlers that like even now I'll watch their matches and be like, man, can't wait to meet that guy. Can't wait to be there for that one time. And like now it's gonna happen. Yeah. And I get a lot more pleasure now watching matches that my friends have than just watching anybody. Like I can watch the WWE matches and they're still cool and everything. You still mark out at those moments. But like just seeing my friends do well or get those opportunities, seeing Andy this past week at PCW getting to wrestle and getting that crowd reaction from everybody, I'm just like, oh, he did it, yeah. Or Adrian in Arena Mexico. I'm just that's what I mark out for more now.
I never mark out anymore. I'm always good.
Lefty's got a picture to
Lefty. Who did you mark out for? I know who we are. The little bugs over here marked out for. I know one for Marty
Jannetty.
Marty Jannetty.
Oh, no, Skrull. Okay.
And one for, she almost died from the picture I can see. She almost died. I'm surprised she's still here when she met Kenny Omega.
Oh, was it Naito? It wasn't Naito?
No.
You got the shirt. Where's your Omega shirt then?
She needed to wash it. She wears it every day. It needed a wash.
So wash it in the morning, wear it in the afternoon.
Right?
It was either LH or Tekken.
I like that Tekken shirt. That Tekken shirt is super dope.
Lefty, stop looking through pictures. All right.
So here's a picture. I'm gonna show him.
Is there anybody?
Who's he marking out to in this
nobody.
picture?
Nobody.
He was at the SmackDown show.
Daniel Bryan.
And Daniel Bryan came out, and I was like, I just made me.
I had like 20 memes because
You're
of him.
so excited.
When your when your tax money comes in, when you find that last fry in your bag.
When the pregnancy test comes back. That's my favorite, honestly.
This is so happy.
I'm telling you, it was This is why I never smile at shows, because this is what happens.
People take pictures.
People take pictures.
So you gotta catch it and capitalize.
Oh, okay. You want to? I'll give you a mark out story. I was trying to think of one while I was wrestling, and I keep bringing my friends back in, but so me and Andy Brown did our first PWG ring crew on the same day. And I guess we weren't friends until that day. Like, we were never really close until we marked out together. At the end, when Super Dragon comes out, gives Candice LeRae kind of something on his knee, and he goes, "That's not Super Dragon." And I was like, "What?" And disclaimer, when you're a wrestler at somebody else's show, you're very respectful. You're not doing chants or anything. So for PWG, if you ever look at any of the ring crew or the EWF guys, it's very like hands crossed or hands behind your back, golf clap type of thing. Very just watching intently. The show's almost over. Super Dragon comes out, gives Candice LeRae the suplex on the knee. Then he says something to her, and Andy goes, "That's not Super Dragon." And I was like, "Yeah, it is." He takes off the mask. It's Adam Cole. We're both hitting each other in the chest. And at the same time, he looks at hardcam. We're on hardcam's side. And I guarantee you there's probably photos of that somewhere. Just in the background of photos, we're both standing there with the fingers up, screaming Adam Cole, baby, at the top of our lungs. Oh. Never friends until that moment. Like he kind of didn't like me because I was just a new kid, whatever. I guess I've been training for about 6 months at this point. Right. So I was just a new kid, whatever. And that moment, ever since then, it's like, this is my boy right here.
You think he'll show up in NXT, Adam Cole?
Oh, absolutely. You just had Kyle O'Reilly do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just had Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish. I think they're waiting for Cole because NXT, everyone says how NXT is such a stacked roster, and it is, and that's the problem. Like, where's your undercard? It's the people that WWE creates.
Right.
So those people, you're basically telling your audience that those people can never get there.
Right.
To all these indie signings come in. So I think they're kind of waiting to cool it off just a little bit. You have Aleister Black, who eventually is going to go up. You got Hideo, who's either going to go up or leave. So I think Adam Cole, you have to bring him in at the right time, and you can't bring him in that same way that you brought in Joe, that you brought in Owens, where it's like the hottest free agent in the Indies is now challenging for the title right off the bat. Yeah. And I don't think Cole's so young that I don't think he would want that coming straight out. So it's very interesting because he's going to be there this Saturday. So, I'll ask him, but no, I won't because I'm totally a wuss. But he's been wrestling. He just hasn't been announcing that he's wrestling a lot. He's wrestling very smaller indies and everything here and there. But it's not like Adam Cole's going to be here. Adam Cole, he's not that he's not the same. He's just very muted right now. Right. You can tell he's waiting for something. Yeah. So he's going to be there.
Yeah. I know if he shows up, Wrestle Circus, and she sees it on the channel, she's going to have a heart attack. If they announce it, she'll probably be on the first flight over there.
They announced him at Wrestle Circus already.
Did they already announce? Yeah. And you're not on a flight over there?
Britt Baker versus
Roppongi Vice.
How are you not on the flight? So you're on a stack card.
It's a stack card. And like not to downplay anything, but like the card on Friday is stacked too.
Yeah.
EWF at Covina, if anyone hasn't been out there, it's where all of us shine. That's home to us. So Wrestle Circus, I'm going to do my thing and everything. But Friday night is kind of like, especially because I'm facing True Grit. Oh. And I've met those guys a couple times. And they've killed it around SoCal. And me and Ty we didn't go into this as a tag team. We kind of just got thrown together.
Right.
And so it's a real test of like, all right, is this going to work in the long run? Is it? We'll see. And so just that match, you have Andy versus Fidel, which think back and when's the last time you can remember two through and through EWF students main eventing that main show and being the stars of that show. Yeah. And the fact that they have the wherewithal and the skill to do it and people want to see that is not insane, but a testament to what the School of Hard Knocks and EWF does.
Fidel's come a long way too.
Absolutely. And Fidel's, when I first started training, Fidel wasn't the Fidel he is now. Yeah. Fidel, something clicked inside Fidel's head, and Fidel just expedited the process and became this Fidel El Bravo in about a year. Yeah,
we had Fidel on the podcast, I think exactly like a year ago, and he was still kind of like, he's going through some tough times.
Yeah.
And then it just seems like you said, something just like triggered in his head, and he just like changed and became like the Fidel he is now, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah, to his credit, he used to be, especially when I first started, real jokey about everything, real just everything kind of rolled off his back. Oh, it's just wrestling type of thing. And his niece was born, and he loves his niece with all his heart, and that is his driving factor. And you can see how much it drives him, because look at Fidel Bravo's body a year ago, and look at it now. Yeah. That dude has done so much work and put in the work that, like, however way he won the EWF title, he deserves it either way. So, and the same with Andy. Andy had a whole year just transformation, and I think he since he's won the title, I think he got a little more comfortable, jokey, Andy Brown, and that's just gone now. That title is like his focus right now. So he's back in the gym every day. He's back doing, because I text him every day and like, hey, let's play video games. No, I'm at the gym. Hey, let's do this. No, I'm at the gym. So it's a different mindset for both of them. And I 6 months ago they wrestled a couple times at like San Bernardino shows and everything, and even from 6 months ago, this is a completely different match than it was. So for all the fun I'm gonna have at Wrestle Circus, Friday night is where it's gonna shine, because like I said, that's my friends wrestling. That's me in there with the people I know, with the people I train with the people I know how much they put on the line and how much they sacrifice for this. So I'm really excited about that too.
Well, speaking of video games, you have your Twitch channel.
I do, yes.
And what made you want to have a Twitch channel?
Oh gosh, I like playing video games that I was tired of doing it alone.
What's your favorite video game?
My favorite video game? Spider-Man for the PS1.
Really?
Yeah.
You're not a Mario Kart guy? I'm a Mario Kart guy.
No,
I told you I was going to say this.
See, my first thing was Nintendo, was the Game Boy. I got the, not the OG Game Boy, but like the transparent one.
Okay.
But it was still the big block Game Boy. And I got F1 Racing. Mm-hmm. And I got Pokemon. That first day I had the Game Boy.
That's the original.
Exactly. I had Pokemon Yellow. That first day I got the Game Boy. And I looked at the racing game and I looked at Pokemon and I was like, well, threw the racing game away, threw in Pokemon, and was like hooked ever since. But I was never really a Nintendo person. We had an N64 and I was always like, man, why don't we have a PS2 or a PS1? What is this? I remember my Papa Bug bought me No Mercy for one Christmas, and I was like, dope, all the kids are talking about this, I'm gonna get insane at this, we're just gonna throw down. And Mom goes, it's got blood, take it back. So I had No Mercy for about 6 hours. On Christmas Day, they took it back.
Sounds like my wife.
They come back 3 months later, and I have WCW Mayhem. I was the same way that you were. I didn't watch WCW that much. So I was like, yeah, I guess Goldberg's cool. I'll pick him. Tony Schiavone was like, WCW Mayhem. And all I remember from that game is like the commentary going, Gorilla Press, because that was the only move I knew how to do. And so, yeah, the Twitch channel is just an extension, like I said, one more extension of who I am. It's just video games, and like, how can I make video games not feel like I'm wasting my time so much, I guess. So I brought a bunch of other people in to play with me, and the chat goes crazy and talks the whole time, and I talk back to them. And then on Wednesdays is the same thing, because the Wednesdays I do I guess you could say a podcast on Twitch about comics, about what comics came out that week. And that's just because I love reading comics. And I'm like, hey, other bugs probably love reading comics too. Let's talk about it somehow.
It's funny how comics, I was telling my son that back in the days it used to be a nerd. Mm-hmm. If you read comics and played video games and all that, they'd be like, oh, you're such a nerd. And now it's like, if you don't know, like, the comic book readers are actually like the popular ones, because
they're such a huge part of like pop culture now. Yeah. Like, it used to be looked down upon, but you can't go anywhere without, Spider-Man's my favorite and all this stuff. And it's like, when I was growing up, like, Spider-Man's cool, and they're like, really? You don't play sports?
Yeah.
And it's like, I play T-ball, but but also Spider-Man's cool. So let's get, like, you look like a study buddy, and I love those guys, but that's what I was when I was younger.
Yeah, that's how it's changed. And I went to a comic book store for the first time like 2 weeks ago, and the guy said it's funny. He goes, because now in order to be popular, you have to know comics. And I'm like, I go, I don't know nothing. I go, I don't know.
I'm definitely not popular, sir. So let's get me there.
Yeah, I'm always asking my kids. So who's this on? Like, we'll watch like the original, like the new Teen Titans go. And I'm like, what happened to the original Teen Titans show? They're like, they changed it. And I'm like, why? And so they're telling me this whole story, or we'll go see like a Marvel movie, and they're telling me, and I'm like, forget it. I'll just watch the movie.
The funny part about Marvel movies is like, even people that go to Marvel movies with me are like, hey, like, shut up and let me watch this movie. Because the whole time I'll be like, hey, you see that one person whose name was on the screen for a split second? Well, that person's actually this person. They're going to become this person, but it probably will never get to that point. Like, they were just a name on the screen.
Like Star Wars, like the whole Rogue One, I just lost throughout the whole movie. Because I didn't know.
He's like, where's Luke?
Yeah, I was like, where's Luke? Where's Vader? Well,
then
Vader
when came up at the end, and he was like,
yeah. When Vader came out, I'm like, oh, I know him. But I attached myself to the one character, the blind character in the movie. Mm-hmm. I won't spoil it, but yeah, that part.
You don't want to spoil a year-old movie?
The Rogue One, that's all I'm saying. The part that got to me in that movie too. But yeah, but I was lost in that movie, and I'm like, now Star Wars is like the cool thing. Like, if you don't know Star Wars, you're like, not cool.
And I wasn't alive obviously when Star Wars came out. But there's one thing I'll always remember, and it's there's That 70s Show episode about Star Wars coming out for the first time, and I just remember like Eric seeing it like 5 times, and like being like the whole time they showed the line of everybody watching the movie, and they're like, "Whoa, oh, that was crazy," and then Red goes to see it at the end of the episode, and like all you could hear the lasers going off and everything, and I just remember him going, "Eric, like this crap," and then the thing explodes, and he goes, whoa. And like right then I was like I remember watching it with my dad, and he's like, that's exactly how it was. Yeah.
Damn. I didn't get, well, I think I was what, like a couple months old when it first came out. So yeah, I didn't get to see it. But
so you were just a baby. You were like, whoa.
Yeah, I was like, woo. But I liked The Force Awakens and a lot of the Star Wars.
The Force Awakens is exactly what A New Hope is.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, which is cool because now they can do other things. They're just, I felt like that movie was very much like, hey, remember that Star Wars you love? This is still it. And then at the end, it's kind of like, all right, now we can do something different. Yeah. We've reintroduced you. Because a lot of people don't realize, and I use this as an example a lot, there are people alive today that don't know that The Rock was a wrestler. Mm-hmm. That know Dwayne Johnson is the Fast and the Furious guy, the Jumanji guy. Yeah. So you have to reintroduce something every generation if you want it to stick around. Spider-Man has been rebooted so many times because it's a Spider-Man for a new generation each time. And I don't even talking about the movies as well. But if you think back to like your Superman, who was your Superman?
Well, for me, my Superman is Christopher Reeve.
Exactly. Mine is the animated series Superman. Right. And they're so far removed from each other that like I go back and watch Christopher Reeve and I'll be like, oh, that was a cool Superman, but it's not my Superman. Yeah. It's not the Superman that I think of right off the top of my head. Your Batman.
Mine was Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton. Yeah. Exactly. Mine, Val Kilmer. Like,
if you would have said George Clooney, I would have watched.
No. Like mine was Val Kilmer because I watched that movie 20 times, and it's just that little, and those came out real close to each other too. That little generational gap. So you have to reintroduce these things, and the way Star Wars did it, I think, was the perfect way. That's like, hey, remember why everyone loved the first Star Wars? That's the same reason you still love Star Wars. We're gonna do that again. And the ending with Luke, like, taking off the hood and everything, that's their jumping point to somewhere else. That's so that now you feel comfortable in your blanket. Okay, let's go outside now. Let's go see what's new.
Yeah. For me, the only Superman that's not Superman is the new Superman. I can't stand the guy. That's Superman. Henry Cavill. I'm sorry to say, but he's not Superman.
Man of Steel is a great alien movie.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a Superman movie.
Not a Superman movie. Batman versus Superman.
And I have no problem with... See, now you got me going. You're like, I don't know comic books. Let's talk about comic books. Not the only problem, but the biggest problem in Man of Steel is that everyone says, oh, Superman kills. Superman's not supposed to kill. Wrong. The Superman would have killed Zod a lot quicker if he would have known that 50,000 people would have died that day. Because there's a point in that movie where it's so insane to just go back and watch it because you realize what's happening. Superman makes out on top of skeletons, on top of a gravesite, like Ground Zero. Superman is just like, makes a funny joke to his girlfriend and they start kissing. And it's like, that's not Superman, I'm sorry. Yeah. Superman would never do that.
All right. To me, the part that killed Superman, Man of Steel for me, was as soon as Lois Lane found out Clark Kent was Superman. That was it.
Right off the bat, you didn't like that?
That was it. I was like,
she's a journalist, though.
I was like, I'm done. I go, you can take me home.
Anyone that's ever worn glasses, and I don't see many around the room, but anyone that's ever worn glasses knows that Superman's disguise works. I'm sorry. Exactly. Like, the minute you take off your glasses, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even recognize you. And you're like, whoa, I'm Clark Kent. That's right. Cool.
You know what? We have a few more minutes, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask you. Speaking of Superman and glasses, the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, they tell you have to crank it up. It has to be you cranked up to 11, right? I see Mariachi Loco, and I see him without the mask, and he's a whole different person from when he is the mask. I mean, same person, but he, like you said, cranked up to 11.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel the same way? Like, do you feel like with the mask, you just you can crank yourself up to 100?
I feel like on a regular basis, I'm already at a 9.
Okay.
So the mask brings it out a little more. Like, I dance kind of like to myself, but then the mask brings it out like bigger movements and everything. My first job, I was a baseball mascot. So I didn't talk or anything. I was just a gigantic scorpion.
Really?
Yep. Foam head. My ears had like scrapes every night because the styrofoam was so old and everything. So I think that really helped out with the whole body language thing. And like, I grew up in a military town. So drunk Marines, the whole, every game, drunk Marines.
Yeah.
And you're just messing with them the whole time. So I think that led to me having that persona every day, which led to me being able to bring it out here a little more. So the mask and everything, I guess I've had people tell me like, oh, you're a completely different person when you put it on. But I don't feel like I'm a different person. I feel like, okay, I'm recharged. Let me put the back on the battery pack back on, because the rest of the time, I'm kind of to myself sometimes. When I'm alone or when I'm with 2 or 3 people, it's more like a reserved type of person. I guess introvert. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. And if I put the mask on, I would say the worst part is this is my actual voice. Like, I get excited and so it goes super high, like it's been doing this whole time. So there's not really a big gap between me without the mask and me with the mask. I've had people come up to me at shows that I've ring crewed on and been like, "Are you Super Beetle?" And no, please, shh, let's not. That's fine. Yeah. But it's you can tell. Yeah. And it just bleeds through, and it's going to be a problem eventually. Like, eventually I'm going to have to cut the eyes out and cut the mouth out and be like, "Hey, look, you can kind of see me now. Stop trying to look deeper."
Yeah. Yeah, because I noticed that with mariachi, I always tell them, like, it's like a switch is turned on. Like, you're calm, and as soon as the mask comes on, it's like, it's mariachi. It's like the movie, The Mask.
Yeah.
You know, like, as soon as the mask is on. And I asked him.
He does, like, 4 spins, and he's like, alrighty then.
You know what? Lefty wanted to know, you wrote this question, right? Super Beetle forever.
So yeah, 10 years from now, are you still going to do this, or what's
so,
the plan?
The original... When I first was trying to come up with something, I threw out so many things. I started wrestling, and I was like, I'm going to be Eddie Guerrero, and I'm going to be Dean Malenko, and I'm going to be all these wrestlers that everyone else says they love, but like everyone just kind of loved when they were little. Like, but we know they were greats, like William Regal and everything. We're like, I'm going to be those guys, and I tried to wrestle that way, and it just never really felt natural. So now I wrestle this way, and I don't think I can lock up without dancing before the lockup now. I don't think I can do a roll without kind of giving that little pop when I come up. So when you say Super Beetle forever, the way I look at it is I've put so much time and myself into this that I can't see myself doing something else. I know a lot of masked guys will have 2 or 3 gimmicks, especially around SoCal, just so they can work different places. And I've been offered. They say, hey, you don't have to be Super Beetle. Come over here and be something else. And my answer is just, I'm not something else. I can't go somewhere else and wear a different mask or go somewhere else and try not to dance when I wrestle, because that's just who I am. So for now, yes, the next 5 years, yes, the next 10 years, who knows? But I like where I'm at.
You're going to evolve like into a different Pokemon.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the mask. Obviously, the suit will change, but I'll still be, like, I'll never not be called Super Beetle. Or the Toku Titan, for that matter.
You and Mariachi in a match?
I'd like it. He definitely gave me some words of wisdom a couple times when I saw him. He's a super nice guy. But yeah, we have that similar thing going on. We both like dancing, so it might not be a match as much as it is just to kind of dance off. But he's got that like Latin flame dancing, and I'm like, I can't touch that.
You guys could trade places.
Yeah. If we went under the ring, came back up, masks are on separate people, and then we just completely changed personas, I'm all for it. But for now, he's like I said, he's got the sultry Latin. I keep doing dance moves like anybody can see me, and I keep forgetting she's not filming anymore. he's got that going for him, and mine's just kind of like so you're either a really great dancer or you're a terrible dancer. And if you're a terrible dancer, you need to know you're a terrible dancer. I'm a terrible dancer to the point where it's just funny.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I do. I know I can't dance. I know when I'm up there and I do the Beyonce thing, it's not because I think I'm going to be in the middle of the circle at the club.
Right.
It's because, like, hey, I can't do this, but let me do this to take the pressure off of everything.
Anybody you want on your bucket list to wrestle?
Adam Cole, Kenny Omega. SoCal wise, we'll start there. SoCal wise, there's a couple bugs out there. Obviously, just because he's like super hot right now, Brody King. So I'll probably get dominated, but Brody King's fantastic. I think he'd be really cool. Jervis, I'd like to have a match with, just because everyone says we'd be so good together, and we've met a couple times, but we'll see. Those two for sure, and Andy Brown. And we've had so many practice matches together at training, or just like beating the tar out of each other at training, that I feel like us with a crowd around would be insane. And so I don't think I'm at that level yet, but I know I'm approaching there. So I'm excited to get there and eventually like have that friend on friend type of handshake at the beginning type of match. As far as like of all time, like Shawn Michaels and Steve Blackman.
Steve Blackman,
Steve Blackman, and that's the one that surprises everyone, and it makes me so offended because Steve Blackman is fantastic.
He was good in the ring. He just never got over it. I think he would get over now.
He was over with me.
Yeah, I was saying I think back then it wasn't over, but I think he'd be over, way much more over now.
I think he's over forever. Steve Blackman, and he's head cheese, and he has the kendo stick, and like that. Like, we talk about Blue, like, I come out and get you hyped. You can't not be hyped to Steve Blackman's music.
He had one of the best.
And you're just like, what?
Yeah,
all right.
I loved his theme.
Makes you want to fight.
I tell people, like, back in the days, Malenko, when he was in WWE, probably didn't get over as well as he, but now that wrestling's evolved a little more into, like, now you have to appreciate the athleticism.
Yeah, now wrestling's in.
Yeah, I think Malenko would be over now with this crowd that currently watches WWE than back then, because we appreciate more the moves and the storytelling in the ring than
back then it was like, all right, somebody can wrestle, but can they talk? And now it's like, okay, they can talk, but can they wrestle?
Right.
Let's see them in the ring. Let's see them go. Because that's how Daniel Bryan got over.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan is still not a great talker.
Yeah.
Like he's so endearing about it because that's Daniel Bryan now. You're like, oh, he's awkward. That's what he is. He does like that's how he laughs. And so that's just adorable now to us because he's so fire in the ring.
Yeah, he's so good in the ring. You don't even pay attention anymore to like how bad he really is.
Yeah,
and he's worked enough. Like I tell him, like one of the things I noticed that for me when I watch SmackDown or going to SmackDown and you see that picture, is like one thing that Raw was missing was there's nobody that comes out that can electrify the crowd with that theme song like Daniel Bryan. As soon as his song comes out, that's the whole time.
Also, on the flip side of that, do you think The Rock would get over today?
I don't think he would. I don't think he would. I think, that's a tough one.
Exactly, because The Rock was a good wrestler, but he wasn't the greatest wrestler.
Yeah, he wasn't the greatest. I think he would be... Oh, who can I compare him to right now? That's currently on there. That's maybe not the greatest.
What a guy that can put on an okay match, but go out there and talk and talk and talk, and most of his talks are insults to everyone else. Get over today.
I don't think so.
Enzo Amore.
That's true. Yeah, Enzo.
And if he had that size and everything of The Rock, would he be The Rock?
Probably could.
Maybe we'll never know.
Tricky.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's absolutely tricky, and that's the thing. There is no one formula for it, because you talk about you brought up like how EWF is more PG, more kid friendly, more family friendly. Every wrestle company is family friendly. A lot of them just don't advertise it,
right.
And we advertise it a ton. Wrestle Circus is family friendly. That's what I was told. Like, hey, there's a bunch of kids in these shows. We're family friendly and everything. And I watched those shows and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. There's just a way to dial it back and just not keep it on the down low, but you don't have to put that TV PG button on the screen sometimes. So when everybody's like, oh, WWE's not cool, they're family friendly, and it's like they're not trying to they're not teddy bears wrestling. Like, they're the same wrestlers. They're just not showing like all the body parts that you had once.
We're not flipping everybody off and cussing everybody out.
Yeah, so you can still have good wrestling, and especially now when it's so not based on the entertainment, when like we were talking about how it's not the talking, you can definitely get over by just wrestling in a PG environment, and no one would ever call you PG if you didn't bring it up.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That is true.
See? So, like I said, there's a bunch of different ways to look at it. Some things work for other places. I know, like wrestlers, some wrestlers come out and throw the middle finger because that's the cool thing to do. Stone Cold Steve Austin does that. But guess what? You're not Stone Cold Steve Austin. It doesn't work
for everybody.
And it doesn't work if you do 50 of them every match. Stone Cold didn't do 50 of them every match. He came out and did one, and when he did, you went insane when he did it because you knew the stunner was coming next. That kind of stuff. So it's just doing things, and this is super Jesse Hernandez coming out of my mouth right now. It's just doing things without purpose that is the only way wrestling doesn't work.
Yeah.
As long as you're doing it with purpose, wrestling could be anything you want it to be.
I agree. You want to give any plugs and...
Oh, there's so much.
Facebook, Twitter?
Sure, yeah. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find me everywhere at Real Super Beetle. Just type it in. It'll pop up. I guarantee it. On Twitch, like you said, I stream Sundays, Mondays, and Wednesdays. Usually at the nighttime, it's at Super Beetle Games because at Real Super Beetle was taken because I totally messed up the first time I was typing it in. And I put at Real Super Beats, which was not a good name. No. So it's at Super Beetle Games for the Twitch channel. We have a couple shows coming up this Friday, like we talked about, Covina, California, EWF, the EWF Arena, and then Saturday I'll be out at Wrestle Circus in Austin, Texas. You can watch that live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Wrestle Circus. That starts 6 p.m. Austin time, so about 4 p.m. our time. And then just a bunch of other shows. I know the Empire Wrestling Federation is running on August 12th in San Bernardino, and that's going to be a street fight between Friar Juan Román and Fidel is the main event for that one. August 24th is a Thursday. We're doing a Baldwin Park Street Fair. So right in the middle of downtown Baldwin Park, there's a wrestling ring set up. There's always like 500 people just walking by and stopping and watching, so that's always fun. And then August 26th, we're back at a church in Baldwin Park. The name escapes me, but it's all at EmpireWrestlingFederation.com.
I'm gonna ask you some questions, and then we'll ask you one last, and then that's it.
Let's do it. Since Lefty left.
Sasha Banks or Bayley?
Sasha.
Oh, you got her.
Now she's starting not to like me.
Stone Cold or The Rock?
The Rock.
My heart hit worked. Well, the Xbox or PlayStation?
PlayStation.
Damn. All right. Well, you don't like baseball or football, so...
That's not true.
Oh, baseball or football?
Baseball.
Oh, favorite baseball team?
The Angels.
I thought you were going to say the Dodgers, blue.
Thank God.
No, not the Dodgers. I would have said the Giants, but I'm definitely the type of bug that's like, oh, everyone likes this now. Let me move to something else.
WWE or Lucha Underground?
WWE.
Oh, all right.
Lucha Underground is so great for what it is, and it doesn't try to be anything else. So I think I don't think it's an alternative to WWE. You can't put them in the same boat. Right. I just think that Lucha Underground is Lucha Underground, and what they do is insane. And like they've had a lot of great matches and great SoCal guys. I don't know how you do that every night. Right. Because they run like 3 days in a row. And they have all those insane matches back to back to back. But WWE that's what you grew up on. That's the spectacle. That's the Disney World of wrestling.
Kenny or Okada?
Kenny or Okada? This wasn't your question.
No.
I know that. Kenny, because Kenny has really dreamy eyes.
Oh. Kenny Okada, Cena AJ. Which match was your match? Cena AJ from Royal Rumble?
I was going to say there's a couple of them.
Okada. One.
Cena AJ.
Oh.
Cena AJ, because like that's Kenny Okada's cool. Kenny Okada had the ring and the bell to bell story, but you can't beat 15 years of building up to Cena AJ.
All right. AJ or Finn Balor?
AJ.
All right. Now here's the last question of the day, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Best advice you've been given in wrestling?
Let me think. Best advice. I think it's been something I've given away for free 10 times on this podcast, and that's be different than everyone else on the card. I definitely came into wrestling not wanting to be indie wrestler number 5, and I think I'm sort of succeeding at that right now, because I can go to shows and see, like, all right, this match is on here, but people aren't really going to remember that match. What can I do in my match to make them remember it for a different reason than they'll remember everyone else? They're going to have, this match is going to have an insane table spot. That's cool. And I'm not the toughest bug in the ring, but the goal of every match is to prove that I am just as tough as anyone else in there. So I think the best advice that I've ever gotten is just be different. Don't be the guy out there in black tights. That's it. Someone legitimately told me that straight off the bat. Like, don't do black because everyone does black. And ever since then, that's what my career has been based off of. Yeah. Don't do black because everyone does black.
I want to thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah,
I
thank you for having me.
You know, honestly. And,
I'm glad you enjoyed this comics talk.
I did. I enjoyed everything. You have a great mind for the business.
Thank you.
You're very, everything. Comic book-wise, I loved it. Star Wars, we love Power Rangers. But you know what? I was really impressed by your knowledge of the business.
Thank you.
And your ideas and everything behind it. So I just want to thank you for being on the podcast. Lefty, he's probably talking to his girlfriend. Lefty left, probably talking to a girlfriend. Thank our camera girl. It was her idea to bring you on so quick.
Thank you so much.
Your bugs. So to all the bugs out there, hope you guys enjoyed it. We gotta bring you back, do part 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust me, I told you I could talk. I've got tons more.
Trust me, if I didn't think we were over it, we'd keep going. All right, so make sure you guys check out EWF tomorrow. If you're listening live tonight, make sure you check out EWF tomorrow in West Covina. Wrestle Circus on Saturday. Mm-hmm. For those that are in LA, come down to the Wrestling Guy store, 6085 State Street, Huntington Park, California, 90255, to meet Rosa Mendez. She'll be here from 1 to 3 p.m. She was a former WWE Diva, and also she was featured on the show Total Divas. So make sure you guys come down and check that out. And also, quick shout out to Sabotage Wrestling, which will also have their show Saturday night in Imperial Beach.
Shout out to Delilah Doom.
Delilah Doom wrestles. She's wrestling Eli Everfly.
It's insane. That girl's got a rocket strapped to her back.
All I'm going to say is this: they're both short, and it's not to make fun of them. But if everybody's standing up, you better get on a chair because
the first match I ever saw Delilah Doom was the first Sabotage. It was at the EWF Arena, so we kind of hosted it, so to speak. And so that's the first time I had ever met her, and I was like, oh, it's cool. And she was maybe on the second or third match. I don't remember. I just remember like, oh, this goes really cool. And then next week, she was everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one that thought that. Good.
You know, the first time I saw her before we wrap up was when Nia Jax threw her out. I just remember she threw her over the top rope, and she says, end it, she's dead.
Yep.
All right, guys, so make sure you check out all these events this weekend. No excuses, guys. And thank you again for being on the show. Thank you, ladies. Lefty, thank you, wherever you are.
Thank you, Lefty.
He's MIA again.
He's Mia.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and we're out of here.